Item SCP-701 Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. All materials relating to SCP-701 are to be kept in a triple-locked archive at storage site. These items currently consist of the 2 currently examined copies of the 1614 Quarto, 27 copies of the 1965 trade paperback edition, 10 copies of a 1971 hardcover print, 21 floppy diskettes consisting of data seized from raids on Unexpunged, 1 VHS videocassette tape designated SCP-701-19-A, and 1 steel knife of unknown origin designated SCP-709-19-B. At no time are any of these items to be removed from the room. Access to the area can be heavily monitored. Absolutely no personnel, however, is to be granted access to the archive without express and personal permission of Doctors L, R, and J. Description: SCP-701, The Hanged Man Tragedy, is a Caroline area revenge tragedy in 5 acts. Performances of the play are associated with sudden psychotic and suicidal behavior among both observer and participants, as well as the manifestation of mysterious figure classified as SCP-701-1. Historical estimates place the number of lives claimed by the play as between and over the past 300 years. Performances of the Hanged Man Tragedy do not always end with an outbreak. Of the recorded performances, only 36.78% have ended in SCP-701 events. According to historical records and investigations, these outbreaks generally follow the same pattern: 1 to 2 weeks, 7 to 14 days prior to event. During the dress and rehearsal period, cast members will begin to spontaneously divide from public text and play, rather than improvise or gaffes associated with going off script. Said deviance will be both oddly inconsistent, as if the actors were working off a new version of the script. The cast and production crew will seem unaware of any change, and, if it is brought to their attention, will state that the play has run that way from the beginning. 2 to 3 hours prior to the event, the outbreak generally occurs during the opening night, or else at the production with the greatest planned attendance, generally falling within the first week after the play's opening, 1 to 2 hours before the event. SCP-701-1 begins to appear on stage in the final scene of Act 1, generally in the background of the site of the main action. It may seem to enter or exit the stage area, but does not appear to ever enter the backstage or offstage area. It simply disappears when not on stage. The cast does not appear to notice or comment on SCP-701-1, at least at first. The event. SCP-701-1 appears fully on stage during the begin scene at Act 5. Here, it will be incorporated into action as of the play of the Hanged King. The cast will either murder each other or commit suicide, sometimes using items that seem to appear spontaneously on stage. Rioting breaks out of the audience, with viewers randomly attacking one another in front of them, regardless of prior relationship. Following the event, if any audience member survives the initial outbreak, they may exit the performance space, in which case they will continue to engage in random or opportunistic violence. Victims will generally require sedation or restraint in the scenario. Normal personality will begin to return roughly 24 hours after the event. Surviving victims will generally exhibit signs consistent with a traumatic experience. Some will have no recollection of the event. Others may have rendered permanently comatose or psychotic. For typical case of the outbreak, see Incident Report SCP 70119. 1. An analysis of the events leading up to the last uncontained SCP-701 event in 19 during a high school drama performed in. For more information on the play's published text, see documents SCP-701 1614 B1. In short, SCP-701 is a self-evolving mimetic virus, transmitting through unknown means through the text of the play. Dr. L has theorized that SCP-701 events may involve expunged. This hypothesis is consistent with a spike in levels detected via selenite that the vicinity of the 19 incident, indicating expunged. Foundation agents are understanding orders to suppress any performance or publication of SCP-701 whenever found or detected, despite our best efforts the contrary. However, the play remains freely available online, sometimes under different titles. All attempts to detect or isolate the origin of these copies have failed. Suppression of the play's publication has generally been successful, with most copies of 1971 scholarly edition destroyed before distribution. Nonetheless, copies of the 1965 trade paperback turn up with some regularly in both college and high school libraries. Agents are to obtain or otherwise destroy these items whenever possible. History. The first known publication of the Hangman tragedy was a quarto dated 1640. The play's author is never listed. The publisher, one William Cook, disappeared from historical records soon thereafter. Strangely, the text does not appear in Station's register. The first known SCP-701 event on the record occurred in 18 during a performance of the play in USA. Other significant incidents include the 19 performance at the Small Theatre in the 1964 performance at the University of the 19 performance at University. The first SCP-701 event successfully suppressed by the Foundation. The 19 performance by a student group in CA. The 19 television adaptation by the broadcasting operation. Production successfully shut down by the Foundation before broadcast. And the 19 incident in OH, USA, designated SCP-701-19-1. Publication history. Originally 1640 quarto. All known copies in Foundation custody. 1733. Folio edition, republished 1719. 1813. Cambridge University Press edition. 1965. Trade paperback edition. 1971. Hardcover edition. Agents should note that copies of the play have often been misfiled under different titles or spelling of the title. Furthermore, photocopies of the 1965 text have been found in the circulation throughout college theaters, departments in continental United States and the United Kingdom. Additional, given in the high possibility of expunged in my mind, I again recommend that SCP-701 be upgraded to Cater class. The SCP-701 mimetic virus may very well be the forefront of an invasion scenario. Furthermore, expunged. Dr. L. 123-711-6060. Denied. None of the current information we have on SCP-701 indicates an XK class scenario. Until we have additional data, classification will remain Euclid. Face facts, Doctor. The cats have been long out of the bag on this one. And, in this line of business, we consider our lives lucky if we only lose 100 or so people every 10 years. 05 1237 197 060. Incident Report SCP-701-19 1. SCP involved. SCP-701. Date 19. Location expunged. Reports prepared by Doctors R and J. By the content of SCP-701-19 A. SCP-701-19 A is a 187mm x 103mm x 25mm S VHS videocassette tape recovered by the investigators from the scene of the incident. A performance of SCP-701 at high school in tape was found in the destroyed consumer-grade camcorder, which apparently recorded the performance from a vantage point within the audience. It is the only surviving record of the event. Please see the SCP-701 archives for the full transcript of the recording, in order to compare the identified deviations during the SCP-701 event with actual plots of the published text. See document SCP-701 1940-B1. 0 minutes. Tape begins. 3 minutes and 10 seconds. House lights go down. 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Curtain rises. The play begins as published, with Gonzalo's coronation speech. 10 minutes and 21 seconds. A possible sighting of SCP-701-1 during Isabella's ravings. An anomalous shadow, not belonging to one of the cast members, shows up along the back wall of the set. 10 minutes and 24 seconds. Shadow disappears. 23 minutes and 15 seconds. First deviation from the text. Rather than a dialogue between Francisco and the courtesan, the curtain drops and comes back up on the bare stage. Antonio enters from the stage right. 23 minutes and 24 seconds. First indirect sighting of SCP-701-1. The shadow of a figure seems to appear on the back wall from stage right. Antonio stops in a place and acts surprised. The shadow disappears. Antonio begins a long soliloquy, confirming that he now believes Isabella's story. Dr. J knows that while this soliloquy is the style of the rest of the play, and seems to be accurate Caroline-area dialogue, Antonio's speech in this scene does not exist in the original text. 24 minutes and 12 seconds. Curtain drops. 24 minutes and 51 seconds. Curtain rises on Francisco and the courtesan. Antonio returns. The play continues as scripted. 31 minutes and 14 seconds. First sighting of SCP-7011. It enters and stands at the edge of the stage, left, towards the end of Act 2, Scene 1. 32 minutes and 17 seconds. Gonzalo's dialogue concludes, as scripted, with the mention of an appointment with an ambassador from Alagada. He exists. Stage left. SCP-7011 seems to turn and follow him as the lights go down. 38 minutes and 13 seconds. Second sighting of SCP-7011 during the third act, Scene 1. It appears on the edge, stage right, as Gonzalo and Petrico murder Sortino. The scene concludes with Gonzalo ordering his cook to prepare the corpse as a stew. Script recovered from this scene indicate that this section had been cut in rehearsal. 51 minutes and 11 seconds. Third sight of SCP-7011 appears close to the stage, left, as Antonio kills Isabella. 1 hour, 9 minutes and 12 seconds. Fourth sighting of SCP-7011 enters with Gonzalo at the beginning of Act 4, Scene 1, and follows him throughout the scene. The scene also contains two key moments. First, Gonzalo seems to nod to SCP-7011 when he mentions to Ambassador of Alagda. This is the first time a cast member has seemed to indicate SCP-7011's presence. Second, the scene ends with a deviation from the text, whereas the script speech at the end of Act 4, Scene 1, ends with Gonzalo considering his own moral inequity. Gonzalo here seems to be more concerned that his tribute will be sufficient for the ambassadors. The lights go down. 1 hour, 21 minutes and 15 seconds. Fifth sighting, SCP-7011 enters stage left at the end of Act 4, Scene 2, as Antonio leaves to secure a blade for the coup. Rather than exiting, Antonio stops in front of SCP-7011, who hands him a long dagger. This is believed to be the first appearance of the item classified SCP-70119-B. Note that there is no mention of the item in the prop list or the other orders maintained by the production. SCP-7011 and Antonio depart the stage together. 1 hour, 32 minutes and 41 seconds. Sixth sighting SCP-7011 appears on the stage left, as coronary and Ludovico exit. 1 hour, 35 minutes and 10 seconds. The lights come up. Act 5, Scene 1, the Bekend stage, begins as scripted. 1 hour, 40 minutes and 52 seconds. Antonio enters, bearing a piece of parchment. Here, the textual divinations begin in earnest, rather than parchment being Petruccio's confession as scripted. Antonio instead described it as an invoice for the ambassador of Alagda, proving that Gonzalo owes more tribute than he intends to pay. 1 hour, 41 minutes and 42 seconds. SCP-7011 enters at this point from stage right. The entire cast seems to perceive it. Gonzalo stands up, curses at the sight for the audience, and runs to stage left. The rest of the cast, including Alina and Francisco, who enter from stage left, physically restrain Gonzalo and drag him back onto the stage. SCP-7011 meanwhile moves to the center of the stage, while it stands in front of Gonzalo's throne. 1 hour, 43 minutes and 8 seconds. A noose is dropped onto the stage from above. The cast forces Gonzalo into the noose, as he begins to curse in Italian, and in possibly Latin. A noose is drawn taut, and the cast drops Gonzalo. He begins to asphyxiate. 1 hour, 43 minutes and 32 seconds. Antonio speaks. With this, the tribute, if full it is, paid. The actor takes SCP-701, 19B, the dagger, and draws it across Gonzalo's stomach, spinning his antithesis across the stage. 1 hour, 44 minutes and 4 seconds. Alinda takes the dagger from Antonio. She speaks. With this, fool's blood, it is the hanged king's. She cuts Antonio's throat. 1 hour, 45 minutes and 31 seconds. Ropes drop from the roof of the stage. A noose for each cast member. The cast assembles underneath them. Alinda takes position next to SCP-701-1. 1 hour, 46 minutes and 12 seconds. Alinda. With this, our blood is the hanged king's. The cast hangs themselves. 1 hour, 47 minutes and 33 seconds. SCP-701-1 moves through the hanging corpses and front center stage. 1 hour, 47 minutes and 41 seconds. The stage lights cut out. 1 hour, 47 minutes and 46 seconds. Sounds of screaming and physical voices around the camera. 1 hour, 48 minutes and 22 seconds. Loud sound, most likely the camera being knocked over. 1 hour, 49 minutes and 1 second. The camera is destroyed. Tape ends. Document SCP-701-1640-B1. The following is a summary of the published text of the Hanged King's Tragedy, classified SCP-701, prepared by Dr. J, from a copy of the 1640s Quarto in the Foundation's custody. Dramatics Personae: Gonzalo, King of Trincolo; Isabella, Queen of Trincolo, formerly the wife of Sforza, the murdered king, now married to Gonzalo; Antonio, a minor noble; Francisco, Antonio's servant, the Duke of Sortino; Alinda, daughter of the Duke; Petrudico, a noble lord allied of Gonzalo; Lodovico, a servant of Gonzalo; Cornadi, a priest; Beatrice, a servant of the Queen; a courtesan; a palace guardsman; the ambassador of Milan; the ambassador of Florence; the ambassador of Alagada. Setting: the play is set in the kingdom of Trincolo, probably a misspelling of Trincria, another name for Sin City, in the capital of Cerco, another name for the city of Syracuse. As the play opens, Sforza, the king of Trincolo, has died, supposedly from natural causes, or the retreat from court. The nobility of Trincolo gathers in the capital for the coronation of the new king, Sforza's younger brother, Gonzalo, who has also married Sforza's queen, Isabella. Despite the text references to contemporary Italian city-states, such as Florence and Milan, much of the play setting is obviously pure fantasy. There were never any kings of Sicily comparable to Gonzalo and Sforza, and the capital of historical kingdom of Sicily was Palmero, not Syracuse. The author may have chosen to move the play events of Syracuse due to that city's historical association with tyranny. There is also no record of any country or place known by the name of Alagda, a mysterious but apparently powerful state that plays a significant role in the plot. It may be intended as a reference to one of the Muslim states or cities on the Mediterranean coast, such as Tunis or Algiers. Plot summary: the plot of the Hanged Man's King tragedy bears a marked resemblance to many easier plays of same genre, including Shakespeare's Hamlet and Titus Andronicus. In fact, past investigations of SCP-701 events have noted that the Hanged King tragedy was often chosen for production as a less violent alternative to the two plays mentioned. The two murderers of SCP-701 text can be constructed as unshoring off stage, and the implication of cannibalism Act 3 can be easily cut from script. Act 1. The play opens during Gonzalo's coronation. Gonzalo opens with a toast and assembles nobility. Then departs the stage, drunk on the wine. Isabella confesses the sorts of careers left on stage, that Sforza did not die in his sleep as reported. Instead, while on retreat on the countryside, Sforza was fed a sleeping potion by Isabella, then murdered by Gonzalo and his supporters. As final show of disrespect, conspirators hanged the king like common criminal from a tree. Isabella goes on to proclaim that Antonio, a minor noble visiting the king's court for the first time, is actually her as Sforza's son and a rightful heir to the throne. Isabella collapses and is taken off stage by his servants. Francisco asks Antonio if he believes the queen's story. Antonio makes light of the situation and then exits. Back in Antonio's rented lodges, Francisco attempts to barter with the courtesan. Antonio enters the stage, clearly in shock. He reports that, while off stage, he saw the ghost of Sforza, who confirmed Antonio's presence and the queen's description of his death. Act 2. Gonzalo, having learned of Isabella's confession, consults with his fellow conspirators. Ludovico, convinced that the last three people witnessed the queen's breakdown: the Dukes Antonio, his daughter Alinda, and a priest named Cornadi. Gonzalo immediately begins to plan the murder or the capture of the three in order to cover up the truth. He orders Isabella to be locked up in a convent. The truth puts out that the queen is mad. Isabella, uncharacteristically, meekly accepts Gonzalo's judgment. The usurper then exits, having an appointment with the ambassador of Alagda. Back in the lodgings of the city, Francisco brings Antonio news of the queen's imprisonment. Together, they begin to plan their revenge. Act 3. Federico and Gonzalo invite Sonatio to dinner. They kill him and order the palace cooks to prepare the corpse as a stew. Gonzalo orders Alinda, who witnesses the murder, to be locked up in convent. Antonio fakes insanity in order to gain admittance to convent. Warned of Antonio's coming, Isabella and a loyal servant, Beatrice, prepare to murder using a draught of poison. Antonio sees through the plan and forces Isabella to drink the poison, killing her. Meanwhile, Francisco gets lost within the convent and winds up freeing Alinda from her cell by accident. Act 4. In the palace, Gonzalo reports to Ludovico that he has, in exchange for the understatement tribute, obtained a powerful and tasteless poison from the ambassador of Alagda. Gonzalo plants the poison in the stew made from the Duke of Santonia's corpse and feed it to the court, thus ensuring the suppression of the truth. Ludovico leaves the stage to carry out Usurper's plan. Gonzalo then has a brief moment of consistence in a soliloquy. He describes the regret he carries in his sins, but is nonetheless unable to divide from the path he has set. Meanwhile, Francisco introduces Alinda to Antonio, all three having escaped the convent. Alinda describes her father's murder in gruesome terms. Antonio promises to marry her and makes her his queen, as soon as his revenge is complete. He then leaves to obtain a blade, with which he plans to kill Gonzalo. There is a comedic interlude between the palace guards and Carnier, a buffoonish priest. At the end of the scene, Ludovico enters, a bit with Cornery, and follow him. The priest is not seen on stage again. Act 5. The guests arrived in Gonzalo's banquet. Gonzalo once again offers a toast, this time to the ambassadors of the foreign nations who are present. The meal served. However, before it can begin, Antonio enters, bearing a signed confession he obtained from Federico off stage, which includes the details of Sforza, his murder, and proof on Antonio's language. Gonzalo is deposed by the outraged courtiers, gathered to murder him. However, Antonio instead decides to spare the usurper and let him accept exile to a monastery. He then orders Francisco to start making plans for the marriage of Olinda. The play ends with a dance staged by the courtiers. SCP-701 events. The produced form of the play that occurs during SCP-701 events contains several deviations from the text as published. For a typical example, see the deviations. See Incident Report SCP-701-19-1.